I hope you're buckled up, friends, because we've got something incredible in store today. I'm YoBGS, player of video games, speedrunner of some, world record holder in a few, and because of the tremendous support that I've gotten from all of you over the last couple weeks, I wanted to do something special. I've been reacting to a bunch of stuff. Today I'm going to show you something, and it is no small feat, my friends. That's why I've called this the greatest Pokemon run ever. What if I told you there was a run out there that encompassed every generation of Pokemon game? What if I told you this run took over 35 hours of real time to complete? What if I told you there was only one runner so far who's managed to complete this challenge? That's what we're going to be looking at today, the Pokemon Octafecta. All right, first things first, before we get into this mega run, if you are having an awesome time hanging out with me on the channel, feel free to join the good times. That's what I'm calling everybody here on my channel. You can click subscribe, get updated on all the videos I've got coming out, and yeah, it is going to be amazing. Now, that little piece of business out of the way, the Octofecta. It is one of all of the 8 main generation Pokemon games. For this run, we're going to be looking at Red, Gold, Sapphire, Pearl, Black, Y, Moon, and Shield. Now, to beat 8 Pokemon games without glitches, you know I got notes here. I tried doing that a little while ago, and all my notes got mixed up, so this could be a very interesting run. As for the runner, the runner's name is Crrool. He's an awesome guy. He's the least cruel in the world, so the fact that his name is Crrool kind of surprised me. Make sure you stop by Crrool's channel on Twitch, give him a follow, because he does all sorts of really cool Pokemon challenge runs. He's also a runner of Gen 1 through 5, so I think that played a little bit into helping him out, and he was super cool with helping me make this video, answering a lot of the questions I had, definitely about fatigue, given that it's a 35-hour run. Now, for the basics of Pokemon running in general, again, it plays a lot differently than the way you played Pokemon growing up if you're new to it. One of the big things is avoiding all unnecessary battles. That's going to mean those dreaded spinner trainers, you know, the ones that kind of rotate on an axis, you got to get away from them. You want to make sure that you move when they're not looking at you so that you don't take any unnecessary fights. Also, repel. Repel is going to be your buddy in this to make sure that you don't take any fights that you don't need to. A starter manipulation is a very complex concept, but what it means is starting the game at a specific time in order to get the best possible starter. Sometimes you have to do that in order to make the runs viable. Like to even be able to complete the run, you got to do these kind of starter manipulations, and that's going to come in big in this run. Finally, items. Your X speeds, your X accuracy, your guard spec. These are the sorts of things that are going to help Crrool pump up his stats to a point where he can just blow every trainer out of the water, in addition to some ridiculously broken moves. So with that in the books, let's get into this 35-hour mountain of a run that I'm dubbing the greatest Pokemon speedrun of all time. So the run's going to kick off Generation 1 like you would expect, because we play all 8 gens in order. The big thing about Generation 1 is we'll play on Pokemon Red, because we're going to get Nidoking. We're going to use Thrash. Thrash is a move, especially on Nidoking, that just steamrolls the early game. Brock's gym, Misty's gym. You're just rolling early on if you've got a Nidoking that early. The biggest thing that tripped up Crrool in this run was bad luck on Lieutenant Surge's garbage cans. You know, where you got to flip the switch, then you save, so you can flip the second switch. That was kind of the thing that tripped up the early run. I think it's because, you know, Nidoking is so good, it's really hard to kind of throw this run off for purposes of the Octofecta. Like, Nidoking just earthquakes everything in Blaine's gym, and then by the time you get to Sabrina, Nidoking is completely OP. There's a little time loss on Lance. I mean, just like that. 2 hours and 5 minutes, we're off and running. And I didn't spend a lot of time on Red because Red is the game I think everybody sort of knows the best. And for that reason, like, when we get to some of the other stuff, the tech is pretty unbelievable. But kicking off this run, I mean, it was just a scorcher through Red, moving on to Pokemon Gold. And I just talked about Thrash. Well, Thrash is kind of back in Gold, except it's going to take the form this time of Rage. Totodile is going to take the place of Nidoking. And Totodile is arguably more broken. I don't know, just because it seems like Totodile has a little bit easier time with some of the gyms in Gold. Basically, you know, a bad starter can kind of mess up the run, and that was sort of what happened in this case. Crrool got a really bad starter, which meant there was some time loss early on in the run. A good rival fight made it back up, though, but get this. 3 deaths to Whitney. You thought Whitney was bad. You thought Miltank was bad. You thought Rollout was bad. Yeah, even a top-tier marathon runner playing a 35-hour game is running into some trouble with Whitney and the goofy rollout strategy there. So what was interesting to me in this run is how OP the HMs are, because you're going to teach what will eventually be Feraligator's strength, you're going to teach it Surf, and it's pretty much just going to cruise to victory. But even with these tools in Crrool's arsenal, he ended up losing about 5 minutes to just all sorts of weird stuff in the Chuck fight, which meant that he was barely ahead of his PB. Now, to run a game like this, you gotta commit 35 hours of your life to the Octofecta. So you're like, if I'm not doing that good, maybe I'll just throw the whole run. But Crrool kept on, and we're gonna be really glad that he did. And when I say that, I mean, he also lost time to Bryce. Fallen behind at this point, trying to play catch-up. Fortunately, in a 35-hour run, there's a lot of catch-up to be had. Feraligator is just kind of steamrolling at this point, so it's a matter of, like, you know, making sure you're using your repels and all those sorts of things. Claire didn't put up much of a fight. It was back on to the Elite Four, and at this point, Feraligator knows return. So courtesy of the power of friendship, Feraligator steamrolls the whole rest of the game. Now, you might remember in Gold, you do go back to the Kanto region, and you do kind of play through all those again, but because we just talked about it, it's basically the same thing. Except instead of Nidoking, you got a Feraligator that is somehow even more OP. So we're going to go ahead and skip that and move on now to Pokemon Sapphire. This is not Crrool's first rodeo. Not only is he the only person to have ever completed this, he's the only person to have ever completed this twice. And in the first run, he left some big breaks in there so that kind of he could take a little bit, you know, of a rest, gather your thoughts. It's a long run, absolutely worthwhile. And so he was able to start Sapphire a little bit early, kind of to start building that time save. Got a great Mudkip right out of the gate. That meant that he was off to an amazing start. Watson went pretty easily. There was a bad rival fight, though, that meant he was down again. And that's the big thing about this 35-hour run is, are you ahead? Are you behind? Do you throw? Do you stick it out? How do you make these decisions? Not to mention, again, Crrool's the only person who has run this before. So it's really his own, like, world at this point, and we're just kind of guests in it, which is an awesome experience. Now, he lost more time to Flannery. Not happy about it. And basically, the lead started to build as he moved through the game, which was kind of nice. But Crrool ended up getting Swampert after taking out Winona. All right, so we heard you like Mudkips. You probably like Swampert a little bit better. I know who you don't like, though. Tate and Liza. Yeah, Tate and Liza can be a bit of a pain, and in this run, it was no exception. They were brutal, costing Crrool over 3 minutes of time loss at this point. Now, Wallace, meanwhile, looked fabulous. Wallace didn't look friendly, and that was another minute of time that was lost. And there was a notable misclick with Kyogre. So basically, Crrool used Surf when he meant to kind of buff up his mons with some items, and it led to him having to use extra items, made the last couple fights of the game really difficult. But you got Kyogre. You got Swampert. You're gonna be all right. And with that, Sapphire was in the books. Now, moving to Pearl, the question was, could the time still be saved? Well, I'll answer that question for you pretty quickly. No, the time's actually going to be going the other way. Remember what we said about starters being everything in a lot of Pokemon speedruns? Yeah, all the time that he'd managed to build up to save got lost almost immediately getting the starter. But Chimchar was able to work pretty quickly. It evolved, and, you know, we're off and running in Pearl. That's kind of a nice way to get things started off there. By the way, you get to Gardenia. Gardenia, meet Chimchar. That's pretty much going to be it for that gym, I'm saying. They lost time to a spinner actually in the next gym, which was really interesting. You got to get around it a certain way, and if it doesn't cooperate, you got to reset like every single time. And so it was a little bit weird. And then Wake, Crusher Wake, Sea Wake, Quake was kind to Crrool. That was kind of nice. He managed to get a big gold, saving back 2 minutes of time. Infernape basically blew through the Ghost Gym, making things pretty easy there as well. It was just really cool to see at this point how Crrool was going to be starting to try and build a lead. Although not surprisingly, the further you get into a run, chat starts to get a little bit memey. They went crazy for Cat Cam. The cat was kind of behind the splits, which was a nice thing to see. But Byron went well. Commander Saturn also followed suit. Candace, Obama Snow, Infernape. Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for playing there. So despite nearly an hour between gyms and the addition to the party of Cresselia, it was surprising that Crrool stayed a solid 3 minutes behind here. And we learned that Cresselia was a bit of a slow mon here. I was going to say a slow boy, kind of a slow genderless deity, and that led to losing more time. The rest of the Elite Four went similarly. There was a big stumble against Cynthia, and it ended up, basically, at this point, Crrool was 5 minutes behind. Now, again, think about this. You are halfway into the run. You are 4 games in. You're 5 minutes behind. What do? Do you stick with it? Do you bail on the game? How do you figure this out heading into Pokemon Black? Now, Crrool had pointed out that Black was a game where there was plenty of time to be saved. So it looked like things were going to go well heading into the game. And my goodness. Friends, this was the stuff of legends. Think about how tired you would be after 14 hours of constant focus on Pokemon games. Crrool hit the starter manip first try. 5 minutes behind, 17 seconds ahead. Let's go. Just like that, things turned around. Now, the time saves started to add up because, again, with the great starter, you can just start bowling through things, especially if you get a top tier one. And fortunately, things stayed on pace. You know, Crrool was almost 2 minutes ahead a couple gyms in after, like Berg, and then Elsia and Clay, they kept up the pace. It was amazing because now he had Emboar and was just blowing. I'm waving my hands, which is getting in the way of the footage, but another gold split was in the works. So much time save at this point. Well, I gotta tell you, friends, if you see me looking just a little bit off camera, you remember those notes I mentioned earlier? Yeah, I'm referring to my notes. It's a 35-hour run. I feel like I'm cramming for like the mega final exam here, and my excitement's building up. We're only halfway through the run because this thing is so incredible. So Gen 5 was so much kinder to Crrool compared to Gen 2, Gen 4. He's stacking up time saves left and right, leading to about 4 minutes ahead. I was floored at this point because Crrool, in true speedrunner fashion, pointed out that this time save wasn't enough. I guess he kind of knew what his runs were, you know, in the last 3 generations and figured he'd need to be ahead by a lot more in order to keep saving the PB. And it was neat to see that, like, Drayden went well and Grimsley started off the Elite Four. He was basically, Crrool was about 6 minutes ahead at this point. The nice part was Elite Four, Plasma, same run. I think this game ended up being a PB for Crrool at this point. I'm getting so many of the gym leaders mixed up. I almost called him Drayden, but Crrool at this point was stacking up the time saves, which was so nice to see because he managed to stick with the run after it looked like it was going to be a bit of a mess. And with that, we move on to Gen 6, which is going to be Pokemon Y. And it was awesome because he got out to another quick start in Y, putting Crrool 8 minutes ahead at this point. And it was just, again, man, sometimes RNG lines up. Everything is perfect. Time save after time save. Making quick work of Viola. 10 minutes ahead at this point. The best pace yet. Now, there was another hour of, like, exposition, storyline, things you got to deal with there. But this pace just kind of blew my mind. Grant gave him a little bit more time save, which was pretty awesome there. Hawlucha, did not realize when I played through how broken Hawlucha was, certainly early on in the game. But yeah, Hawlucha being used to the max here. So one of the things that was noticed is Hawlucha ended up being really slow. And because of that, it started leading to a couple time losses in some of the next gyms that were coming up. But RNGesus, in the course of a 35-hour run, is going to give and take. And in that case, Ramos got pasted, which meant that Crrool was almost 10 minutes up again. And it was just so cool to see. Well, say what you will about why, but one of the things I enjoy about it is the variety of mons you see in the speedrun. Like, we've stepped up to Lucario now, which took center stage against Clement, but Crrool lost a little bit of time here. Was this a tactical move? Yeah, because Crrool decided to get up and take like a stretch break, which is understandable for as much as we're into this run. And Valerie managed to get knocked out pretty quick and was on to another basically 10 minutes ahead for Crrool at this point. The feisty Lucario was sort of saving the day here. Another hour-long segment went in the books. That's what's blowing my mind about these runs, is some of these splits are almost hours apart, and it's kind of wild to see just how you handle when you got to go 50 minutes before knowing if you're going to be saving time, losing time. And then you get to the Elite Four, which fortunately this time through was uneventful, and basically Crrool was on his way to victory for Pokemon Y, and after that, my friends, it was nap time. So I think we can all agree that a 35-hour run is arguably a little too long for one individual to be staying up at one time. Right? I think it's fair to say. So fortunately, one of the things that Crrool decided to do over the course of his run is he takes a nap. This nap was baked in after Pokemon Y so that he can get up, get refreshed, and get after those last two games. Now, if you did not have enough to complain about when it comes to the Pokemon Moon speedrun, I got something else for you. No, it's not the fact that they go from badges to trials. I mean, that's something, but the first trial was 90 minutes into the run. At least if I'm adding up the timer properly, which is difficult given the fact that Crrool is starting to build a huge lead. So the normal trial saw Popplio take down the Raticate, which was awesome. Crrool was able to knock down his time to almost 30 minutes ahead at this point. If you're this far into the run and you're 30 minutes ahead, you gotta be thinking some good thoughts. I mean, the trials proved no match for Crrool. Fire, done. Water, done. And then, by the way, the water meaning Popplio can kind of do the, I'm forgetting the name now, the Z power. Thank you very much. But yeah, still 30 minutes ahead. By the way, you like gold splits? If you're new to speedrunning and you're still here, awesome. A gold split is when you do something the fastest you've ever done it before. Well, with a water starter like he had, he managed to go ahead 38 minutes, which is awesome because remember, we're in the tail end of this run. Gotta be careful though. See, I'm getting so hyped, that would have probably like hurt. Fortunately, Crrool is a cool customer, so that sort of helped things out there. Now, if you like that, you are going to love the screamer that this run gets on here because Crrool saved another 11 minutes in the next two trials. So he's at about 50 minutes of total time saved. With that, the biggest enemy is fatigue. Fatigue's not even really that big of an issue because we already know Crrool is rested up. He's good to go. He's ready to break his own record. And a 2-hour segment, though, might cause a little bit of trouble. Yeah, just kidding. So he was an hour ahead after the last trial. Now, unfortunately, that was about it for the time save because he'd pocket another like minute on the Elite Four, but at this point, over an hour ahead, all you got to do is finish Pokemon Shield. You're going to find out that Pokemon Shield is arguably one of the easiest games in the run because of a mon you get very early on. So Arcanine in Pokemon Shield is just off the charts broken. Excadrill, S tier as well. You put the two of them together and you have got a recipe for PBs, my friends. Now, Crrool started off with the excitement of knowing that the PB was incoming. And here's the thing, again, Crrool super measured, Crrool super modest. He was kind of like, I'm not really sure. Then again, you take into account the fact that he'd only slept 3 hours in the last 35. So you know the drill by now, the Excadrill by now. Grass Gym, meet Fire Starter. Guess what? Another 2 minutes saved just like that. And the fates were all kinds of present because the other gym leaders were chipping away at another 3 minutes. So it was up to about 70 minutes of time save. Actually, I got that a little bit backwards because he lost 3 minutes to the next couple gyms. And who could blame you, you know? You're on the run of your life. You're trying to clutch it out, but you gotta be exhausted by this point. You're tired. I'm hungry. Now, Alistair ate into the time save a little bit more, but Crrool was able to save another minute on Opal. It's in the home stretch. Can you feel it? This run is coming. It's not coming down to the wire, but you know at this point, it's a foregone conclusion, and it's amazing to kind of see the excitement building in chat in different places as the run went on. The Shield was kind of a seesaw battle. You know, basically one gym would save time, and then Piers would give it back. The Arcanine Excadrill combo, it's going, it's strong. Crrool was hanging on to the teeter-totter because, like, Rayhan would, you know, chip away at some time. Marnie would give it back. Is it all surprising, at all surprising in this, that the Elite Four were an utter steamroller? Apart from a couple misclicks, which, by the way, I think you can chalk up to fatigue, and it's all right. The fact of the matter, Crrool was able to annihilate the final battles, which led to this final moment.
There we go. 35-19. I am going to be rating...
And that is going to do it, my friends, for what I have dubbed the greatest Pokemon speedrun ever. The 35-hour Pokemon Octafecta. Now, again, if you have not already done it, if you haven't done it during the run, make sure you go to Crrool's page. I'll even spell it out for you. CRROOL. Give him a follow on Twitch. I know he was making a partner push. Now, I call this the greatest Pokemon speedrun ever. Could it be beaten? That's the question, because during the run, Crrool even mentioned that there were some people out there who could lay claim to the crown, but they got to put together a 35-hour run. You know what I'm saying? They got to climb that mountain. They got to dethrone Crrool, the king of Pokemon marathon runs. And when I had the chance to talk to Crrool, I asked him if there was anything cool coming up that he was doing. So he's doing Pokemon Ranger, Guardian Signs 100%, Omega Ruby, all obtainable TMs. And he'd asked me to mention this, the Pokemon Series 100% race, typically like it's a summer thing, but they're starting to get ready for it now. Basically, you beat every Pokemon game, you catch every Pokemon at least once. It included 62 games. It was 3 weeks to complete. It was incredible. He's also working on like Gen 6 co-op race. So basically something amazing always happening at Crrool's channel. So give him a follow, stop by, and thank you for stopping by here. I'm tired just talking about this run. I don't know how Crrool did it, but that is it for the greatest Pokemon speedrun ever. Until somebody beats it. That's always the case in speedrunning, right? I'm YoBGS, and I will see you next time for the Salty Run Back.